Welcome to another video. It's a bright sunny morning. Ooh, I don't know if you can see it up there or not, but I don't know if it's showing in the video, but even the moon is still out. And I wanted to touch on a couple different topics this morning. I couldn't figure out which one I really wanted to go with, and in a way they're related. So I thought I'd do my best to try and tie them in. Now, this is the second week in November. And as you can see, here in South Florida, we don't get the changing of the colors the way you do around a lot of parts of the country and the world. But anyway, one of the topics that I wanted to discuss was failure. And that I can come out here several times and not come away with an image that I think is really worthy of showing. And people will say, well, but you're out in nature and you got some fresh air and you got some exercise, and be happy with that. And all that's true. But it's still nice to get an image, right? I mean, as a photographer, that's what you want. You want to come away with some images. Unfortunately, you don't always come away with images. And so, especially if you're a beginning photographer and you don't realize that, get used to it. Because what's going to happen when you start shooting, you're going to go home and you're going to put a bunch of images up on your computer, and you're going to go, wow, that's pretty good. Wow, that's pretty good. Wow, that's pretty good. I don't know what he's talking about. I came away with 9 great images, or very good images. And then 3 years from now, you're going to go back, you're going to improve on your photography. You're going to go back and look at those images, and you're going to say, maybe I didn't get 9. I'm not sure I even got 1. Because you're going to learn to improve, and your perspective on everything is going to change. And as you improve, so will your images, and the ones that you took in the beginning when you're just learning, maybe you won't be quite as good. Now, you may end up with a good image, but the point is that your idea of what a good image is versus after you shoot photography for a while is likely going to change. I walk, easy for me to say. I go on these photography forums, different spots, and I look at other people's images from time to time. And I see people comment on them, and I know sometimes they're just being nice. And they'll say, oh, what a great set of images. Oh, wonderful. And I'll look at them and have a different perspective, or a different idea of what I think is good and what I think isn't so good. But it's all relative. But I guess the point is that don't be afraid to fail. You're going to fail. And yes, sometimes you're just going to come out here like I might this morning and walk around for an hour and not come away with an image. Hopefully I'll come away with a video, but not an image. Or I might find one. In years past, I would have already had my macro out and taken about 10 shots. Now I'm a little bit more selective. I think what happened was, if you're an old guy like me and you started out shooting film, you're very, very selective in what you shoot. Because you might only have 12, 24, 36 shots on that roll of film. Back when I was first starting out, you had to send away your film, and it might take a week to come back, and it might eat up half of your allowance. Or I know back then I wasn't making a lot of money. Had just gotten out of college, and so the idea of spending $20 a week on developing film just wasn't in the budget. So it taught you to be a lot more selective. Then I got into digital, and like a lot of people, it was rapid fire. Bang, 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 bang. And now I've kind of gotten back into, let's just take a couple images and see what we can get. It's a fine line. Now when I shoot seascapes, I'll shoot multiple images or landscapes, depending on what the light is doing, and maybe blend the images. So I'll have multiple shots then, but it'll still be of one particular image. But the point is, at least point number one, don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to. Here's a bit of an example of what I mean by failure in a way, in that, I don't know if the camera's picking this up or not, but the moon is still up there, and I'm shooting my infrared, and I know that this would make a really nice image with that moon up there, but I need the moon a little bit lower because I only have my 50mm lens. I need a little bit wider, and the problem's going to be in a few minutes when that moon comes down enough, it's possible that the sun is going to be too high. It's going to wash the moon out, and then I won't get the image I want. So you keep moving around, try to find a different composition. I'd found one around the corner where I could line it up to where the moon was low enough. However, then I couldn't get really the ground the way I wanted it, so I didn't get the composition I wanted. So that's what I mean by failure. You can come out here and walk around and have a vision in your mind of what it is you're trying to accomplish, and you just can't line it up. Now you say, well, why didn't you bring a wider angle lens? That's a good question. Well, with infrared, by 24 to 120, sometimes you get hot spots at the wider angles, even at f8. So even with that lens, I may or may not have been able to accomplish it. And I wasn't planning on coming out here and photographing the moon and needing a wider angle. I was really just trying to look for bushes and shapes and things like that with the infrared. And so I wasn't planning on doing that. One last thing about failure while I'm thinking about it. If you don't take your camera and go outside, or even inside, studio, wherever, point is, if you don't take your camera out of your bag, that's a failure. Right? I mean, if you have the time and you consider yourself a photographer, and you don't take the opportunity to go out and shoot, then for sure you failed, because you have no shot of getting an image. So don't be afraid of going out and thinking to yourself, well, what's the point? I can go out there and walk around for 2 hours and not come home with an image. Yeah, well, if you sit on your couch, I guarantee you, you won't get an image. So don't be afraid to fail. Even the best fail all the time. I mean, all the time. And when I say fail, for the most part, I mean they don't come home with an image. Now, there are times they take a shot and they didn't realize they had the wrong shutter speed, the wrong ISO, whatever. Maybe their setup wasn't right. Until you get really used to your camera settings, you're going to do that. And that could be a failure as well. But my main point about failure is that you're not going to get an image every time you go out. But here he is. What's going on, buddy? Yeah, I know, I'm not going to bother you. So there they are. Second thing I wanted to discuss today was the fact that we as photographers, and I include myself in this, we become a spoiled lot. We really have. And now I'm going to sound like the old man get off my lawn speech. But if you consider what cameras could do 40 years ago, I'm talking about, for the most part, consumer or prosumer cameras like most people use today. What they would do with the lenses compared to what you can do now is just, it's night and day. It's incredible. And you still hear people complain, well, you know, I went out and I bought this 1.2 lens, and you know, sometimes if you're not careful, it'll focus on the eyelash and not on the eye on the autofocus, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, man, back in the day, I had to use f5.6 lenses, and it's all manual focus, and I only had 12 shots on a roll of film, and so I could only afford to shoot 2 or 3 shots of that person, and let's hope the face is in focus, let alone the eye versus the eyebrow, and the camera's doing it and the lenses is doing it for you, and you have in-body stabilization to where you don't always have to carry a tripod, and so on and so on. I mean, with few exceptions, even the kit lenses today are superior to most of the lenses you would have bought back in the 70s or 80s. Again, there's a few exceptions. But the equipment that we use today is so much, everybody knows is superior. Then again, unless you're just starting out now and you don't realize the advancements of what these cameras do. The point is, even with all these advancements, there's still plenty of times you go out and you don't get an image. You know, now if you're in a studio and you're a portrait photographer or something like that, well, and you can control the light and you control the situations, well, of course you're going to get an image. If you're a decent photographer, you're going to get what you want. I'm talking about like what I'm doing. You're just out here wandering around and bright blue sky and you have your infrared camera. Just be happy with what you got. You know, and don't get me wrong, when I read some of these things, what people say are accurate about the difference between, say, a Fuji 100S medium format with the pixel density and the colors, and you know, is it better than a full frame camera, and here's why, and yeah, you know, is it worth getting yourself all ruffled over and running out and buying that and buying big expensive heavy lenses? That's up to you. You know, is it worth it to you? To some people, I'm sure it is. To other people, it's not. If I was shooting in a studio with controlled light, I probably would shoot with a Fuji 100S and one of their portrait lenses, if that's what I was doing. Maybe even if I was a wedding photographer, I don't know. I'd probably have a backup as a, you know, maybe a Z6 II for low light if I was shooting weddings. Yeah, which is another point. Every camera body, every lens has its purpose, and you should learn what they're really designed to do. Not every camera body and not every lens is designed to do everything. Can you shoot a lot of different things with, say, an 85mm lens? Yes. That's a very usable lens for a lot of different situations. But it's not really necessarily designed for wildlife. Not necessarily designed for sports, maybe. Indoor sports, maybe it is. Outdoor sports, probably not. So, I know I'm rambling, but I guess I just want to end it with, just go out and use the equipment that you have. Be happy with it. Don't be spoiled. And I fall into that trap too. You know, I'm not excluding myself from this. I get spoiled. you know, I sit around and wait, well, when's the next camera body coming out? Well, what does it matter if you're just wandering around and you don't get an image? You come out 5 times and, you know, is that a little bit quicker autofocus going to help you get an image on a day like this? No, it's not. The camera that I use for landscapes, a Nikon Z7 II, is a wonderful landscape camera body. And the lenses that I use with it are great lenses. I remember back, and here I go, the old man get off my land speech. Back in the early 80s, I'd go out and shoot sports with, I think it was, I don't know if it was a Cambron or Cambry or some old f8 or f5.6, I think it was an f8 500 millimeter lens, and a Pentax K1000 shooting film. And man, I'd be happy if I got 1 or 2 shots on that roll of 24 or 36 that were actually in focus, or maybe the bat was on the ball. Now you go out and you take a Z9 and a good, you know, that 100-400 lens they came out with, and shoot at a bazillion frames per second, and bang, 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 bang. Not only you get the bat on the ball, you get the guy looking up and watching the home run go, and you get it all in a single burst. I mean, it's amazing. And yet people still complain. Well, you know, it just, the autofocus wasn't blah, 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 just even a little bit faster. Give me a break, okay? Give me a break. Be happy with what you got, all right? And trying to think of something, the way to end on a happy note. I got my hairs all matted down, but look, it's a beautiful day out. It's a beautiful morning. Go out, enjoy yourself, smile, take your camera, have fun. And until next time, be well. Say goodbye to everybody. Bye-bye.